this thing on? Because it's getting ready to be on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bell Ringer. My name is Greg. Your guest name today is Matt Fleckenstein, the co-founder of Buffalo Studios. Matt grew up on Grand Island here in Western New York and moved to Los Angeles, where he found himself a successful career as a TV writer on shows like iCarly, Drake and Josh, Family Guy, and his own creation, Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, and Dawn. Now, he's bringing all that expertise back home to Western New York to start Buffalo Studios and help build our film and TV production industry. Yeah, so I want to start out just with a little biographical info before we dive in so people know a little bit more about yourself. So I know you grew up in Buffalo and then obviously moved to Los Angeles for a career in film and TV. Just give us a little bit about kind of that decision and what pushed you into this career path and made you want to move.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I will try to make that as concise as possible. Particularly what the most interesting part is going to be why I chose to move, but I definitely will get that last, because so much of that is why Buffalo Studios exists. But taking a step back. So yes, I grew up on Grand Island, went to Stella Niagara in Lewiston, which was amazing. St. Joe's, which was amazing. And, my entire life, I've as far as I can remember, I've always loved to write. So when I was in fifth grade, there was a local or regional writing contest. I use that term very loosely because it was obviously very friendly, geared toward school-age children, grade school children. So I wrote this little mystery story that, is what you'd expect from a fifth grader, but I was super excited about it. And I was lucky enough to get chosen to go to this weekend of professional writers talking about writing, people who were doing it for a living. And Ray Bentley was one of the teachers. And at the time, he had written his books, Darby the Dinosaur, which I still have on my bookshelves. So, to be a kid in Buffalo, to get to meet Ray Bentley, get an autograph, and talk, see someone who, was a superhero in my eyes as a kid, but also was a professional working writer. Just a very indelible moment in my childhood and, in my path of writing. So ever since then, I just, I never stopped writing. And, it's one of those things, I wrote a little bit of everything. But when I got into seventh grade, my brother and I, a couple years earlier, my dad got this giant bulky VHS camcorder for Christmas. So my brother Jim and I, and also a couple of my friends in school, we just started shooting stuff. So it became this natural convergence of, we're going to shoot stuff. Well, if we're going to shoot stuff, let's write stuff. And it evolved into, we sat down and we wrote scripts. So everything just kind of clicked. Obviously, I loved TV and movies as a kid. I loved writing. And there's just this great convergence that felt very natural. So we, did that all through high school. I went to Syracuse, to the Newhouse School for TV and film. That was my goal coming out of high school. Got a great education and great experience there. And, this leads me to why the decision to move to LA. I graduated 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you want to write for TV or movies, you have to move to LA or New York City. That's it. So packed up my life, drove 3,000 miles or 3,500 miles and slept on the floor of my brother's dining room for a couple months while I got off my feet and, had a job on the way out here that, had a job before I left Buffalo and that disappeared when I got to Ohio. So came out starting from scratch and worked my way up from there. One thing, to jump ahead a bit or to tie it back together to what I was saying, what's been amazing for me to watch is the past 20 years, particularly the past 15, but really 10, is just the increase in the democratization of content creation, right? We all know very well anyone with a cell phone can create content, put it online, and potentially make, a great living doing it, but also make what they want to make and tell their own story. You don't need to drive to LA, New York, et cetera. And Buffalo Studios is the natural extension of that. The fact that we've seen studios sprout and pop up all over the country and in Canada. And I mean, there's some more popping up in Mexico and Caribbean, all these places, the traditional gatekeepers aren't the traditional gatekeepers anymore. And that means, that 21, 22-year-old kid graduating from Syracuse, UB, wherever it is, you don't have to pack up, schlep across the country and, go broke in 6 months because everything is outrageously expensive. So my journey has I've been lucky enough to have a good amount of success and stick around long enough to see things change, all for the better. And for me, it just created this great opportunity to be able to try to bring my experience, my relationships, my expertise back to Buffalo to try to be a part of the great renaissance Buffalo's seeing right now.
For those that don't know, you wrote on iCarly, Drake and Josh.
Sorry, I skipped all that. Starting schlepping coffees and lunches to that's where the beauty begins. Getting coffees for people.
And we're going to the glitzier part. The glitzier part of the name brand TV shows that even people my age obviously watch growing up, or maybe a little bit younger than me. But iCarly, Drake and Josh, a couple episodes of Family Guy. I think people might be surprised because you did find a good amount of success in Los Angeles and in a city that, quite often doesn't afford that to a lot of people. And, people probably come back to their hometowns, in much different circumstances. So, I think you touched on a little bit, but maybe expand on, those barriers of entry are gone thanks to the internet and YouTube. But, what made you want to take down another one of those barriers in, making a studio here in Buffalo in your hometown?
Sure. That's a great question. Why I wanted to take down more barriers is I hate barriers. And quite frankly, again, like you said, I've been lucky enough to have success out here, and, it's a combination of hard work, that great Buffalo work ethic mixed with good luck. And I've had good luck and I've had bad luck. And if it weren't for the good luck, I wouldn't have any success that I've had. And that's wrong. It shouldn't be that way. People with the drive and the talent and the desire, their barriers shouldn't be timing and good luck. So the fact that, with Buffalo Studios and with the training and educational opportunities that we want to create, that we're talking with, like, obviously University of Buffalo and other schools, high schools, about creating those new opportunities and training, like, to me, that's all about, if you want to do this, start doing it as young as you can, but get, as professional, great training you can get from people working in it, so that when, you either get skilled enough or are going to graduate, you can start making great content. You basically, you don't have to sit around and wait for someone else to give you the go ahead. Someone else is okay to say, great, well, you know what? You've slept coffees for a year and you seem like a nice guy and we like you, so we're going to promote you to a different kind of assistant. And you do that job, and, the show, if it gets picked up, I can't tell you how my experience, and so many friends who, as I worked my way up from a production assistant, which is getting coffees and lunches, you show up with a smile, you do your job. If the show stays on the air, you get promoted, then become a writer's assistant. I was actually executive producer's assistant and then a writer's assistant. And it's the same thing. And there's so many times people say, you did a great job as writer's assistant. If the show gets picked up for one more season, we're going to bring you on as a staff writer. That's the dream, right? Show gets canceled. So there are all these things that, as I've spent all the time, all those years, hitting the pavement, putting in the work, building relationships, absolutely necessary. Someone right now, again, coming out of college, they can skip all that. They can just go to the making great content part. There are quite literally, I say kids, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to where, 22, 25-year-olds, they're kids, and they've leapfrogged me. They make something, they get a team together, or, they make something great that builds an audience online. Studios take notice. Those same studios, I'm knocking on the door, pitching ideas. At the same time, 22, 18, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, whatever it is, makes content. It goes right to the top, and suddenly they get a show on HBO, whatever it is. So you don't need to do what I did. And I think that's fantastic, because a lot of it is just needless frustration. But like you said, it's hard for a lot of people to keep doing it. And because a lot of the time you're met with just so many different barriers, particularly, again, financially. It's outrageously expensive to live, particularly in Los Angeles. So that becomes a barrier. People miss family. You want to be where your family is, where support is. And you can do that now. I just an interview with a student reporter at Syracuse for the website, and she asked what my advice is. And my biggest advice is stay where you are and just start creating stuff, whether that's stay at Syracuse, move back home where you can live for free. You've got a support system, you've got friends, whatever it is, you've got a community. Amazing. I mean, we all know it's that stability that creates growth. So, for me, I always want to try to help. And I think that's just part of being from Buffalo. As I've said a couple times, my whole experience is everyone that says, how can I help? I would love to see more people succeed, and I'd love to see less people fail. So part of that is, let's take this bit of Hollywood that doesn't need to live just in Hollywood anymore, bring it to a place like Buffalo, where the industry's already there. There's people who want a shot, and we'll give them the opportunity to have a shot in a place where they can take their time and they can grow. And the end result is we're just going to get much greater art and content and movies and TV shows and video games and all these things that really just add so much value to life.
It brings me to the next point, which is, here you are now creating these extra opportunities, hopefully, with less barriers of entry, with less strict gatekeepers, if you will, in Buffalo studios. Tell people just a bit about, the specs, the location, all that kind of stuff about Buffalo studios, how many stages, that kind of information, so we know what to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. So our property is in South Buffalo, across from the Tesla plant. We have 27 acres. Phase 1 is going to be on 10 of those acres. It is slated to be 6 sound stages, 4 18,000 square foot stages that can handle features but are a little more targeted at episodic television, a 20,000 square foot stage, which is more targeted at features, and then a 12,000 square foot stage, which is really targeted at virtual production. In addition to that, there's support space, which is, dressing rooms, hair, makeup, big open spaces for equipment, but also office space for productions. That we have 4 different support buildings, 3 or 4 stories each. So I think the total project right now is roughly 250,000 square feet. Our phase 1 is really designed to test the market, what the market wants, figure out our mix of product, for lack of a better term, so that we know how we're going to expand into those 17 additional acres.
Right. And, as you're testing the product and even getting yourself to a point to be able to do this first phase, I know you've had a lot of conversations with people about the potential that Buffalo holds. I know when anybody thinks of Buffalo, even Buffalonians themselves, I'm sure that Hollywood or movie and film production isn't the first thing that comes. It's probably, bills and chicken wings and maybe snow, unfortunately.
Definitely snow,
even though we're a lot more than that. But, you as someone that's worked in the industry for so long, had success, and is now making this investment in Western New York. What do you see in Buffalo that, convinced you to go along with phase 1?
Sure. The fact that I'm from Buffalo and know that Buffalo is, like you said, Buffalo is so much more than snow, chicken wings. The Bills can't win a Super Bowl, right? Those are the punchlines. I know all the things that Buffalo really is. Buffalo is a big enough city to be metropolitan, but it's still, like I always describe Buffalo as a small town wrapped in a city. Meaning the people are small town in the sense that everyone is friendly, everyone's outgoing. People in Buffalo want to support and help Buffalo, and that, coupled with the blue collar history and work ethic, people from Buffalo aren't afraid to work and put in the work, as long as they're treated well and rewarded for their work. That alone is hugely important to being able to support any industry. And the film industry, yes, it's glitz and glamour. At the end of the day, It's an industry that needs workers. So knowing that there's a potential crew base, worker base of great people, aren't afraid to do work. The industry already knows about Buffalo, which makes the conversation easier. Quiet Place 2, Tim Clark and the Film Commission, Mayor Brown, obviously they've done an amazing job of selling Buffalo to the industry. The shift in the past couple of years has been, it used to be Buffalo is telling the industry about Buffalo, but now the industry is calling Buffalo saying, do you have space? What's going on? And Quiet Place 2 significantly changed that dynamic. So there's a great people, which is Buffalo's greatest asset. The industry is already there. The demand for sound stages is outrageous. Capacity pre-pandemic was like 96 to 99%. So, there quite literally aren't enough sound stages. Land is cheaper in Buffalo than LA or New York. It's, still pricey, but it's significantly, cost of entry is much lower. New York State tax incentives are a big reason why productions go to New York. And practically, again, knowing Buffalo, I guess I'll put it this way. Well, it's not, there are so many big things that attract production to a state. So tax credits, an existing crew base, those things were there, which are huge. But also Buffalo offers such a wealth of locations that are so close. And it's something that, if you haven't worked in the industry, maybe you don't see as an asset right away. But look, think of a place like LA. It's 45 minutes to drive anywhere. And to move equipment and hundreds of people, it's timely and it's costly. Where Buffalo Studios, where our property is, we're 9 minutes from downtown. Downtown has amazing Art Deco architecture, right? And people don't realize, again, things we know because we grew up there, we've lived there. Buffalo is one of the wealthiest cities, the turn of the 20th century, and that's still there. So there's beautiful architecture. There's a skyline that hasn't been seen in a lot of movies. There's beaches. You have Niagara Falls. There's a natural wonder. There's an NFL stadium. There's a hockey stadium, not a stadium, but there's a, NHL. There's minor league baseball. So if I'm a producer and I know I have a holiday movie where I need snow and there's a big ending scene at a football stadium, and afterwards they go to the frozen beach and toast the frozen lake, whatever it is, great. I can do all of that within a 25 mile radius in Buffalo. And that is a massive asset. That is really a hidden asset that Buffalo has that the industry is realizing. As people tour there, I know John Krasinski fell in love with so many of those things because there's so many unique pieces of architecture and infrastructure and just the texture of Buffalo. Things that, we may drive by every day and take for granted. These are great settings, great backdrops, great texture for feature films and TV shows.
Yeah, I interview people all the time that have moved to Buffalo, to live and work from different cities. They're across the board amazed that they can live in downtown Buffalo in a city, walk to restaurants, and then drive, 15 minutes to do, this gorgeous hike or these bike trails in the woods. That doesn't happen in a lot of places. So even commute times play into that as well. And just kind of that malleability that our region has.
Malleability is a great word, and it speaks to the overall quality of life. Right. Housing is less expensive, especially compared to LA and New York. Gas is less expensive, things like that. But yeah, you can get around, you can live. When I was back there in the fall for a week, it was great. I would, I stayed downtown. I'd walk to restaurants, drive no more than 15 minutes. And yeah, you get wherever you need to go. And, every little town and village and little hamlet, they're all just so iconic and are great settings for film. So literally there is an endless set of locations in Buffalo and Western New York.
Right. So film and TV production, obviously, known and somewhat glamorized for, the glitz of Hollywood. But I think one of the maybe more understated parts of Buffalo Studios coming to Western New York are some of the tangential economic benefits that it brings. Tell folks a bit about, that maybe don't know what a movie production brings with it beyond just the crew and then what you end up seeing on your TV?
Absolutely. It's a great question. So there is a massive ripple effect of other industries and jobs around a production. So I guess I'll do this. I'll try to walk you through, kind of a typical scenario of when I had a show on Nickelodeon called Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, and Dawn, which, multi-camera, kids and family sitcom. It seems like, okay, what does that mean? To your question. Every week we're building new sets. That's new lumber that's bought. It's construction crew to build things. We're painting sets. That's new paint every week, every day, people to paint. We had a crew of, that show's about 125 people. They all need to eat, and you have to provide them with meals. So there's food catering. There's breakfast, lunch, sometimes dinner. There's snacks in between. There's coffee trucks that come on. Another interesting thing that makes sense when you think about it, but you don't think about it, is clothing. I mean, our wardrobe and costume department, there's someone every day going out to local stores and buying clothes to put on cast. And sometimes that clothes, those clothes get dirty and need to get dry cleaned right away. So they run out to the dry cleaner and get things cleaned. Look, Tim Hortons is going to sell 1 billion donuts a day when production comes in a bigger way, but paper, you have to print scripts, you need paper, and there's always a local distribution company for that. And copier repair, there's always copiers breaking down and repair people in there. So I mean, that's not all, but hopefully that gives you some insight into that ripple effect. Teachers for kids on set, you need local teachers who could, it kind of goes on. And that's been a lot of our conversations with local colleges and universities. We're talking with them about creating programs. Again, yes, the things that are kind of obvious and you think of when you think production, but there's also specialized accounting, there's entertainment law, there are on-set nurses and medics who are now going to need to be COVID compliant and whatever, COVID is moving to the future. So, in addition to that, it's just learning cameras, learning construction, transportation, acting, writing, directing, props, art direction. So like there's an architecture bend to set design. Obviously construction fits right in perfectly, electrical, all these things. So there are many different I'll call them kind of hidden careers and hidden opportunities in the film and TV space. But yeah, the entertainment industry, that's why it has such an economic impact on an area. It is just that ripple effect into the community.
Now, you're one of a couple movie studios here in Buffalo now. What do you think that growing cluster, what message does that growing cluster send to executives and producers in Los Angeles that, as you touched on earlier, now kind of have a sense of Buffalo? And, you mentioned capacities at an all-time high, even, before the pandemic, and now especially after, because there was such a pause on production.
Yeah. No, look, it's capacity is only increased, and the fighting for stage space is only increased and will for the foreseeable future. But look, Buffalo Filmworks, I give them a ton of credit, and they deserve a ton of credit. They were there first. They're the ones who, they were local, and they put in the time, the energy, and the money to really be that foundation for the industry. To say, look, there is actual functioning sound stages in Buffalo. And then with the other group, Great Point Capital, coming in, to me, validates the market. It especially validates that private equity should be investing in the entertainment industry in Buffalo. So right now, all those studios, that's fantastic. It's going to be a rising tide situation. Now it shows Hollywood, the entertainment industry, that Buffalo is officially open for business. That if you want to come and produce whatever you want to produce, you're going to have world-class facilities in which to do it. And by the way, you need to shoot a certain percentage of your production in a qualified production facility, aka a soundstage, to get your tax credit. So it's great. It shows Buffalo is committed. It shows New York State's committed to Buffalo and Western New York. to grow in the industry there. And again, if we can, continue to build on that, the industry's going to flourish around it. Once you make that base camp, because the demand is so high, people are always looking for lower costs. They're looking for tax credits, et cetera. It just becomes plug and play and makes it easier for more people to come. Georgia is an amazing example of that. They've done a fantastic job going from who shoots in Georgia to the second biggest film economy in the world, TV and film economy. So, once you say you're open for business and you show that you've got the people, the equipment, the know-how, which Buffalo has shown, it's so much easier to bring people in.
Right. And, you touched on the success of A Quiet Place 2 as a step towards establishing that success and getting that message out. How important do you think your, first few projects will be toward that? And I believe you announced one of, if not your first, but one of the projects you guys will be doing is a television episodic show about Rick James, I believe. Yeah.
So it's a group, the project's called Brothers Keeper, led by Leroy, Rick's brother, Trent Bowling, and Addison Henderson. Obviously all Buffalo people with strong roots in the industry. So selfishly, personally, I would love our first projects to be projects like Brothers Keeper that are Buffalo based. As much as I want to bring Hollywood in, the whole point of this project for me is to support and grow local creators. Again, to be a space where people are going to tell great Buffalo stories, or great Buffalo towns can tell stories. We hope they can all do that at Buffalo Studios. Brothers Keeper is a perfect example because it's a great team. It's a great story. It's a fantastical, crazy story. But, at the end of the day, it's about these two brothers, their relationship, their struggles, and their success. So it's a universal story. Obviously, people know who Rick James is, but to be able to create that locally with a local team is just a dream come true. So initially, less concerned about having in general, I'm less concerned about having big splashy things come in. But just having projects come in, as I'm thinking about it, I think the ideal mix would be kind of, bigger projects, whether it's features or TV series, and smaller local projects on the lot at the same time. To me, that sounds like success.
Right. Well, we're super lucky to have you, and super excited that Buffalo Studios and yourself and your partner have decided to, invest in Western New York and are kind of going along on this endeavor. And I appreciate your time. Before I let you go, we always do a couple hard-hitting blizzard round questions, if you don't mind.
All right, let's do it.
I have one. There's a few we ask everybody, but I want to start with one specifically for yourself.
Okay.
Selfish question of mine. We touched on your writing career and some of the shows that you wrote on. Were you ever tempted to force a Buffalo mention or an Easter egg into a script at all, or were you ever able to, I guess?
100%. I have some shows I've created that never got made that are set in Buffalo. I actually have one right now that was the first project I put together with my production company, which was the impetus for Buffalo Studios. Started about 3 years ago, and it looks like we might be producing it this year, so hopefully there'll be an announcement soon. But that's going to be set in Buffalo. But yeah, I think I mentioned you before we really started talking. Again, my Nickelodeon show, Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, and Dawn, the kids all had to come up with a name for their dog. They got a dog, and the whole episode was about what's his name going to be. And I wrote, one of the kids said his pitch was, kids were saying like, kind of more typical dog names. And his pitch was Pro Bowl nose tackle Fred Smerlas. That was or Hall of Fame nose tackle Fred Smerlas, forgetting Fred's actual where Fred landed. But that was his pitch for a name. And I couldn't do it because they didn't want to reference Fred Smerlas. But I loved it. It was, it was weird, it was bizarre, but it was Buffalo, and people in Buffalo would have appreciated it. So, you try, you don't always succeed. Lawyers sometimes, more for better than worse. get in the way, but always trying.
We appreciate the effort. Now we'll.
I try. Listen, Fred Smirlis will get a reference somewhere. It's my goal.
It's a great goal. Now we can do the ones we ask everybody. So, if you were a flavor of ice cream, what would you be?
Fudge brownie cookie dough.
Book or TV show that you'd recommend?
Oh, wow. Yikes. My favorite book of all time is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I just reread it again recently. I recommend it in a heartbeat. TV show, there's a show I just watched. I don't know why I'm blanking. There's a show I watched recently that I just thought was just so unique and amazing, but I guess I'll have to leave it there.
Okay. The book.
Oh, you know what I should say is Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, and Dawn on Nickelodeon.
There you go.
The obvious answer.
Yep. That I put that one on a T for you, and you.
I know, man. Damn it. All right, I'll be ready next time.
Okay. Text or phone call?
Phone call. I would have said text up until 4 months ago, but with Buffalo Studios, it's phone calls all the way.
Bills or Sabres?
Oh man, I gotta pick. How about Babers? Can I mash them together?
That counts. Yeah.
Listen,
never had that done before.
All right. Woo!
Hiking or skiing?
Skiing is the worst thing humans have ever created. So hiking. The last time I skied, I fell and I split my pants in the crotch at the top of the mountain. And I took my skis off and I walked down swearing the whole way. And it's the last time I will ever ski.
Very fair. And we will end on hopefully a better question. Chicken wings. Which do you prefer, drumstick or flat?
Oh man, I think flat. I feel like I get more meat.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate everything.
Bell Ringer is a podcast by Invest Buffalo Niagara, the region's privately funded, nonprofit marketing and economic development organization. Please rate this podcast, follow our social media channels, and read our blog at buffaloniagara.org for the best of Buffalo Niagara. Come grow your business with us.